Okay, so I'm not sure how much of that showed on camera, but I was drilling the hole for the bracket uh, in the frame, and as I was drilling, and it turns out that my measurement was more than dead on, and I had the headboard butted up against the the frame, and as I was drilling through, the drill hit the bracket and twisted up, swung, and it whacked my chin. You can see right there. It hurt quite a bit. Dumb mistake on my part, but yeah, that's what happened. And consequently, because the drill went in there, those threads are now just destroyed. So I think for this hole, what I'm gonna have to do is just use a screw. So that's what happened. Be careful. When I was cutting the platforms for the underside of the bed, where storage baskets and things are going to sit, I was using the straight edge. And the thing and they work out well, and the idea is that you clamp, you saw me do in the video, is you clamp this to your plywood or whatever the material is, and then your saw can ride at that edge and you get a nice straight cut. The mistake I made was I actually measured and positioned everything so that my saw was going that way. So I was cutting towards you, towards the camera. And so when I got here, I realized, well, that's not going to work. And I did the, rather than either, well, I mean, there are a couple of different things I could have done to sort of fix that. But what I did was, I wasn't thinking, and I came to the other side, and I flipped the saw around, and I started cutting, and I got a couple inches into that cut, but then I realized the mistake I had made, because the distance between the fence and the blade here is different than if it's positioned this way. It's 4 inches or 4.5 inches or something like that on this from here to here, and it's 1.5 inches from here to here. So if you're going to use one of these fences, you want to make sure that you're cutting on the, I guess the flat, for the lack of a better way of describing it, the flat side of your saw. So then that way, 1, your clamps don't get in the way. 2, you don't run into the handle if yours has one. And also remember that if you draw your line and say that's where you want your cut to end up, don't position the fence right there. You actually need to, and this is going to be different on every saw, but you actually need to measure the distance between where your fence is on your saw and where the blade lines up. And this is nice enough to actually have a little divot right there, and then also a line, and there's another line for the for 45-degree cuts, but it's a 1.5 inches. So I would actually take my tape measure and set it at the 1.5 inch mark, and then have my fence line there, and then clamp it there. So that way, when I come in to cut, then it's lined up. Originally intended to basically cut the plywood, the 4x8 shelf plywood, in half for these bottom platforms, but I ended up losing. They're actually about 21 inches wide, which is plenty. And so if you use one of these, remember, make sure that you're cutting on the right side of your saw. In this case, do it from that side because of the way that handle is, and because it clears the clamps. And also remember that your mark, wherever you're going to cut, is not where the fence lines up. Your fence needs to be offset, so your blade of your saw ends up on your mark. here are the two runs for the staircase. You might be wondering why a bed needs a staircase, but we have some dogs, and particularly during the summer when my wife is off work, she's a teacher. We like to, or they like to get up in the bed, particularly our big Dane, Lincoln. And because this bed is higher, and he already has a hard time getting up on our current bed, and this one's higher than our current one, I figured I'd add a staircase. It will be removable, so it's not going to be permanent. I think I've roughly figured out how to attach it and make it removable, and even make it so that I can either put it on, anywhere sort of along the bed. But that's basically it. The runs, as you saw, I made a pattern. I actually made this in SketchUp and then printed it to full size, just because it's actually easier to print this, cut it out, and then draw it on the board. You can see this one here. I just taped it on and then outlined it. It was easier to do that than measuring each line and drawing it sort of, I guess, manually, if you want to put it that way. Come in as far as I could with the circular saw. You can actually see on this right here, that's as far as a circular saw gets. So basically, because it's a round blade, and then I would come in with the pull saw here and cut the rest of the way, and do it the same on there, and then that would free the piece and give you the run. This is sort of roughly based on how you would actually design a stair run if you were doing this like for a structure. But really, what I did was, because I had this drawn up in SketchUp and I had the dimensions, and then I had the dimensions of where the mattress is going to be sitting, I basically just determined where I wanted this to be, because basically these are all steps, and then the mattress will be, say, here, and that'll be just one more step, essentially. And then I basically then just drew how I wanted it to land, and I drew up the dimensions of a 2x6, so I knew it would fit on a 2x6, and then basically just drew it how I needed it, and as long as I needed it, without it being too crazy long. I'd even considered actually a ramp at one point, but a ramp, like if you were to take this and basically take that angle and make it a ramp, that's too steep. And to get it to where it's not, or to get it to where it's at an angle where the dogs could actually get up on it, it would make it too long. It would stick out too far. This is kind of pushing it as it is, but our room is relatively big, and like I said, this will be removable. So if we want to take it off, I'm going to make it so it's removable. It'll be one piece, but it'll be removable.